The taxi driver who loved me. Hi, today I will tell you a story that taught me a lot of lessons. The most important one was that sometimes what may seem true is not true, and we shouldn't be so fast into thinking assumptions about people. My name is Carol. I am 16 years old. I live far away from my parents. Because of my school, I live alone in a small apartment. Well, not really alone because I have a cat with me and her name is Sam, and she means the world to me. We do everything together and go to every place together. She is my family here when I am feeling down. I play with her and all the sadness just simply fades away, and it's like she's an antidepressant to me. I don't make many friends, and it's really difficult being alone. My parents knew that, therefore they gave Sam to me as a gift. It took me some time to adjust to the new place, but I got used to it. There is this taxi driver who is a lot older than me. He also lives somewhere near my house, and he usually drives around the area. And the thing that I wanted to tell you about him is that he is in love with me. Well, at least that's what I used to believe. He is a really nice person. I had seen him a couple of times in the street and after school. We talked for a while and I realized that he is in love with me. He is always so nice to me, and sometimes too nice. It made me a bit suspicious about him and his intentions. Being a girl of my age who lives alone, I was a bit careful about these things. I had been in his taxi several times and nothing wrong happened. One day I went to the market to buy some cat food for Sam and some things for my apartment. I took Sam with me because I never leave her alone. I took the bus to get to the market because it was really far away from my house. When I got to the market, I bought cat food and other household accessories that I needed, and after shopping for a while, I got really tired and thought, I might eat something because my house is very far away from the market. It would take a lot of time to get there, so I looked for a restaurant and had a meal there. I was so busy shopping and doing other things that I completely forgot that it's gotten so late, so I went to the bus stop. After that, unfortunately, I just missed the bus by a minute. The next bus was going to come in an hour. I waited at the bus station for almost half an hour with my cat. And still half an hour was left. The time was moving so slowly. Seconds seemed like hours. There were some passengers waiting at the bus stop. One of them told me that sometimes the next bus takes about 2 hours to get at the stop. And that got me really worried because the sun had almost set. There was no sign of the bus, and after some time, a taxi stopped in front of me. When the window got rolled down, it was the same man about whom I was telling you guys about. He told me that he had completed his shift and was heading home, and coincidentally, he saw me at the bus stop since his home was near mine. He suggested me to get into the car with him and he would drop me off at my home. I got really worried about what to do because it was getting so late and still no sign of the bus. And I was afraid that he might do something to me. After thinking for a while, I decided to get into the car with him. I got in the back seat and he started the car. It was a long journey in front of us, so we started to ask questions about me and we started talking. During our conversation, he was being a bit flirty and was staring at me the whole time from the back of the mirror of the car. Honestly, guys, I was a bit scared too, but I had Sam with me, so I overcame the fear and tried my best not to let him know that I was scared. By looks, he looked like a decent man. Something wrong wasn't expected from him, but still my mind was creating different situations about what could go wrong. And guys, there were a lot of things that could have gone wrong in that ride. We were halfway into our journey that he suddenly stopped the car and looked at me. Imprecise, he was looking at my breasts. Then he bent his neck and he tried to grab my chest. Well, at least that's what I thought he was doing. But that didn't happen. I had Sam in my hands. At that moment, I had no idea what to do. I was in severe shock at the moment, so I closed my eyes. But turns out he was picking up Sam, and I thought he was going for my breasts. I got really shocked and frightened at that moment, and he realized that. He felt so guilty and apologized to me for grabbing Sam like this. But then he explained why he did that. When he was young, he had a cat just like Sam. He showed me her pic, and the resemblance between his cat and my cat were uncanny. He told me that he loved her so much and told me all the stories about his cat and all the adventures him and his cat had. I asked him where his cat was now and what happened to his cat. This question brought a huge deal of sorrow on his face, which gave me the answer to my question. Then he told me that once he was going someplace and he had a really big accident. The cat was with him in the accident, and unfortunately, the cat couldn't make it out alive from the accident. He was also really injured, but he was more sad about the loss of his cat than his own injury. I got so sad after hearing all this because I couldn't even imagine what I would do if something like this would happen to Sam, because she is my everything, my whole world. After that, we talked for the rest of our journey, and we became good friends too. Though I love Sam a lot, I told him that he could play with her for some time if he wants to, because I had an idea of the pain from which he was going through. He told me that it's a really nice gesture from my side, but he couldn't take Sam away from me. He said he didn't want me to go through what he went through when he lost his cat. We didn't realize in our talking that we had reached home. I wanted to talk to him more, but I guess that was it. He dropped me off at my apartment. I offered to pay for the journey, but he didn't take a single penny. I even tried forcefully to give him the money, but he didn't take it. So I thanked him a lot and went inside my apartment. He also went to his house after that. When I was about to sleep, I realized that he was only looking at my cat and he was only being nice because he was a nice person. He didn't have any wrong intention. At that moment, I reflected upon how wrong I was and was really feeling ashamed for thinking this wrong about such a nice person. I wanted to tell him all this and what I thought about him and how wrong I was. I really wanted to apologize to him many times, but never got the courage to do so. We humans are really fast in judging people. We all are. We start making up assumptions about a person, that what type of person he or she is, and we stick with false assumptions, but when we realize that our assumptions are wrong, we are all left with nothing but guilt. That day, I learned an important lesson that is going to stick with me forever, which is we should never be so fast into making assumptions about people. We have to at least give them a chance to explain themselves. If you like my story, kindly like this video and tell me in the comment section what you think I should have done. Should I have told him or not telling him was a good decision? Also, share any similar experience if something like this happened to you. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.
As you already know through the first part of my story, my name is Carol, and just like every other girl my age would easily misinterpret and suspect kind gestures from male folks out there, it was somehow normal for me to suspect a taxi driver that showed me so much love. As a matter of fact, you can't really blame me. After numerous sexual assault attempts I've suffered from old people that are even related to me, I have grown up to suspect every male folk out there, especially in today's world. It seems nothing goes for nothing. Indeed, every act of kindness is suspicious. However, these reasons didn't in any way make me feel better. I still felt I owed the man an apology. Unfortunately, unlike other days, it was a little bit difficult to come across the taxi driver. Subconsciously, I was eager to see him again. Well, in one of the evenings after a stressful day at school, I decided to go out for a walk, and boom, we met. Actually, I couldn't really hide the excitement. It was too obvious judging from the way I reacted when he got out of the car and extended his hand for a handshake. I held on firmly to the hands and smiled back. After exchanging pleasantries, the first thing he said was that he bought a cat that's very similar to the one he lost in that fatal accident back then. He described how adorable the cat is and how much he wants me to see her for myself. Personally, I was happy for him. At least this new cat would help him get over the loss of the previous one. As funny as it might sound, I realized that all the while we were still holding hands, and he was gently caressing my palm in the process. I didn't want to make the mistake of misinterpreting his intentions once again, so I overlooked it. After telling me more about his new cat, he softly invited me to visit his place and see the cat for myself. I accepted with the condition that it would only be possible during the weekend or any day I'm less busy at school. Since I didn't have much to do in school that week, one of these days I later decided to pay the taxi driver a surprise visit. I got into his apartment, since the door was open, and I saw the cat lying down on the sofa. Just like he described her, she was the perfect beauty, and I couldn't help but play with the cat's fur. It was soft and awesome. The cat, on the other hand, was staring at me with this confused face, and I couldn't help but smile back at her while whispering my name to her. After a few minutes, the taxi driver came in from the next room to meet us, having our inaudible conversation, and burst into a loud laughter. In no time, he jumped on the sofa and was struggling to gain the cat's attention, but it was as if the cat already fell in love with me. She fixed her gaze on me and kept meowing in a sweet manner whenever I made a statement, as if she was also giving me replies. Before I knew what was happening, I've spent hours playing with the cat and the taxi driver, and it was already too late for me to go back home. The taxi driver noticed that I was nervous, so he promised that he'd drop me at home and that I should not worry. Although I'm someone that does not like disturbing or stressing another person too much, I had no choice but to allow him to take me home, considering how unsafe it was to go alone. In a flash, the taxi driver was already in his bedroom to wear his clothes and also pick the car key. In no time, we started the trip, and this time around, it was not really a boring journey compared to the previous ones I had. The truth is that by now, he had already gained my trust through his actions. So we were more like friends now. He told me a lot about himself, and I felt I'd be considered boring if I didn't also contribute to the list. I had to tell him how my parents never once allowed me to eat ice cream since, according to them, I'd get cough from cold. We laughed at the misconception about ice creams I grew up with. It was funny because ice cream is like every child's favorite food, whereas I never had the opportunity to taste it once. From the ice cream discussion, we started talking about school life during his days and how it is now. I noticed that the taxi driver slowed down and then branched into a parking space before stopping. On the left side of the road, I observed that the place was a market, and deep inside, I kept wondering why he stopped. I guess he also noticed that I was uneasy and decided to break the silence by saying, "Please, I want to get something from the market. I'll be right back." And then he winked at me. His winking was so bad it got me cracking up with laughter. In split seconds, the taxi driver was already back in the car, and somehow I was unsure if he was able to get whatever he went in to buy. With hands on his back, he said he had a gift for me, and that I should promise him that I won't reject it. I began to imagine what could possibly be in the gift he got for me. Sluggishly, I nodded in affirmation that I won't reject it. Well, even after agreeing to collect the gift, he still didn't allow me to see what was inside the bag. He stepped into the car and we continued our journey, but in silence. After some time, he stopped the car and came to the back seat where I'd been sitting all along, and then opened the bag slowly. Right inside, the surprise he got for me. A big, creamy, mouth-watering ice cream. A big, creamy, As a matter of fact, it was really the best surprise I could get.
As a matter of fact, it was really the best surprise I could get, and it actually made me realize that dreams do come true. And it actually made me realize that dreams do come true.
I couldn't even wait for him to hand it over to me. It was hard to resist the urge of hurriedly dragging the parcel from his hands with all amount of seriousness. He smiled as he watched me eat the ice cream. Since the car was already too hot, the ice cream started melting, and I had to eat it faster and rapidly. The ice cream started melting, and I had to eat it faster and rapidly. The taxi driver had to promise me that he'd get me more next time. The taxi driver had to promise me that he'd get me more next time. He turned over. All of a sudden, we heard a sudden bursting sound, and he held the brake. After careful observation, he noticed that one of the tires actually picked up a sharp object and got deflated. It was actually frustrating because the whole unfortunate scenario happened in the middle of the road. Since the taxi driver is always going around with most of the repair equipment in the car, he got out and in no time was able to fix the tire issue with the spare he had. Well, although he tried repairing it, the car still needed the services of a professional. They had no choice but to manage. After adjusting the tire for some time, he started pumping air into the fixed one. This made a little disgusting noise, and I had to close my ears until it was over. Immediately, he was done. We continued our journey again, but before we could get to my apartment, we noticed that the taxi driver's cat that was with us all through the time we spent together was nowhere to be found. Our fear was that maybe we left her where the car crashed, and so I decided to join him in search of the cat. We got to where the car crashed earlier on, and we looked all around, but we found nothing. We got so disturbed and even had to enter the nearby woods, but our search was still futile. Then and there a thought came into my head, and I had to tell the taxi driver that maybe the cat had returned home to the house after they left her in the street. After saying that, we entered the car and headed back to the taxi driver's house to check if the cat was there. Luckily enough for us, at arrival, we saw the cat crying in the house. We both embraced her and kind of tried explaining how much we have looked for her. She stopped crying and kept rubbing her fur gently on us. By now it was already too late, and considering the condition of the car, I didn't want the taxi driver to risk anything just to drop me off. So I just asked him if I could sleep over that night at his place. Actually, I had so much confidence that nothing will go wrong, like I expected, and he agreed and said I could sleep with him and the cat together in the bed if I wanted to. The suggestion was okay with me, but I told him I had to take my bath first since the day's stress actually got me sweating profusely. He showed me his bathroom and I took my bath but had to wear the same clothes I wore before. I came back and laid down on the bed with him, and just a few minutes after we started discussing again, we suddenly heard a knock on the door. And since it was late in the night, we were both worried and scared. The first thought that came to my mind was if it was actually armed robbers. I was literally shaking in the bed. The taxi driver summoned up courage and opened the door, and right there were 2 policemen and my parents with them. According to them, they'd been looking for me all day. I was so happy that my parents came to pick me up, but why they had come with the cops was something I didn't understand. The cops took the taxi driver, handcuffed him, and he was prosecuted and sent to jail. The cops thought that he actually did something bad to me, but I told them he was a good man, and he had never done anything bad to me, but they didn't really believe anything I said. One of the cops kept saying that maybe the man had threatened me not to reveal the truth. He told my father that the taxi driver had done similar things in the past. Well, I don't really know how true that might be. All I knew was that he never hurt me in any way. After the taxi driver was sent to jail, I decided to take care of his cat and mine. I'm sure that's the least help I could render to him. But even with that, I'm still confused. I don't know what to do. Can I go to visit him in prison? I'm sure he'd be happy to see me, but I don't know if my parents would want me to do that. Or maybe I should just let things be, and after serving his jail time, he'll be released and I can hand over his cat to him and apologize for what he's gone through because of me. Please help me by commenting on how I should act now, because I don't know what to do next. You can also like the video and subscribe to our channel.
Like a bolt from the blues, it has happened. That the taxi driver who I was beginning to get fond of is no longer with me. I was not myself by the passing of each day. Oh my God! Examination was by the corner, and it seems as if I don't give a damn. I couldn't just help it because every one of my thoughts was tailored toward the good moments I had with the taxi driver to the moment he was taken away from me. The more the days went by, the more scared I became. I was torn between two worlds, one filled with everything I could ever dream of: love, value, passion. The other, forbidden love, punctuated by dangerous choices. Finally, one day, I decided to visit him, irrespective of what the consequences may be. Because since after I learned my lessons on the disadvantage of judging or doing things based on assumption, I started to take bold steps and good risks. So I got dressed in my skimpy skirt and a top and immediately made my way to the jail. On my way, I was lost in thought on what could be his condition, now that I've not seen him for 2 months. Who knows how he looks now? Can he still recognize me? Ugh, I just hope I can still see him. Amidst my fears, the one that fears me most was if my taxi driver friend would permit me to come close to him, because it's obvious that he was sent to jail because of me. That look of guilt was all over me, just like a rat that was caught stealing. "Gosh, I've passed the jail!" I screamed at the taxi driver that was driving me. "Are you stupid?" I rudely screamed out of annoyance. "You've passed the jail!" "Oh, sorry, ma'am. I was expecting you to tell me you want the light." The innocent taxi driver responded in a polite manner. Then I got conscientious of myself. This is not me. I was overreacting and transferring aggression because of what I'm about to face. Then I apologized to him and asked him to take me back to the jail, which we have already passed. He gave a slight sigh and headed to the roundabout to take an upturn back to the jail. At last we got there, and I alighted immediately in a hurry, heading to the gate when the taxi driver yelled out, "Madam, you've not paid me." I immediately came back and paid him in a hurry. Am I having a psychological problem or what? What's really happening to me? I seem not to understand myself anymore. Immediately, I got to the jail. By this time, I became intensively nervous. I got this feverish feeling all over me, causing me to shiver. Immediately, I saw the policeman walking up and down. I had to compose myself immediately. I got to the table where I was queried of who I came to see and who he is to me. Remember, I've decided to deal with pretense. So the true nature of what I felt for the taxi driver made me want to say something beyond a friend, but I sensed it could complicate issues, as my parents are already involved in the case. So I just told them that he was just a friend. After the interrogation, I was asked to register my details, which I did without compulsion. I was taken to another room where I waited for him to be brought out. Oh, my heart skipped a beat as I looked at my friend. He has really changed a lot. His beard has grown so long and bushy. He used to be lean, tall, and handsome. But right now all those physical appearances are thrown to oblivion. How I wish I could find this thin air where they disappeared to, so I can restore them back. How impossible it is right now. Tears dripped down my cheek as I hugged him passionately, not letting him go. I felt like kissing away his tears, which were flowing like a river. His became uncontrollable that I had to instantly be strong for him. Suddenly, every fear that I had about him disappeared. He is too innocent and calm to hurt a fly. Talk more of committing a crime. I brought out my handkerchief and wiped away his tears. I promised him that I would do whatever it takes to see that he is out of jail. It's already been 2 months he's been in jail. Does it mean that nobody cares about him, and even his so-called uncle is not aware of his condition, for them to leave him like this? How have you been, dear? As you can see, I am fine, he responded with a smile, which I feel was not real. As I was about to ask him the next question in my mind, he continued, "It has been hell here, not seeing you for months, Carol. I have lost all sanity, but thank God, now that I have seen you, I feel much better. Carol, eating has been difficult for me, but trust your presence have changed everything in my system." I felt pity for him because I am certain that his suffering is as a result of our friendship. His words were so passionate that they swam into my marrows and sprouted out the feelings I had for him. I must be honest, although I don't know if it is a wise feeling, but by this time I felt like kissing him, especially those tears that kept dropping down his cheeks. I felt this magnetic force pushing my lips to his as we stood opposite each other with the table serving as a barrier. But then I gained this consciousness again to discontinue the action. Then he held my hands across the table. "Carol," he called, "I need you to do me a favor if you really value me and want the best of my happiness. This is the only thing that can bring me out of this jail alive." "What is that?" I responded without mincing words. "I need you to go to my uncle's house. Take my house keys and get me the pictures of my cat. You know I can't be with my cat here. I just want to take a glance at it once more. She is the source of my joy. Please help me." I understood his plight, because my own cat has always been an antidepressant for me. That is how comforting cats can be, and true to the fact, at a time like this, Taxi Driver's cat is the only one that can help him overcome his depression. Do I really have an option? Not now. I promised to get to his uncle's house, collect his keys, and get the cat's pictures. Then I requested of his uncle's address, which he gave me. I hugged him and left for the mission. I headed immediately to Uncle Sam's house. On my way, I was still reflecting on what happened in there some minutes ago. That feeling that almost made me kiss him. Oh, it feels so good. Was this really out of pity, or was I just being real? I asked myself, well, time will tell. Let's go complete this mission first. Locating Uncle Sam's house wasn't really that stressful because Taxi Driver has already showed me his house before. On getting to Uncle Sam's house, he was at the table munching some fruits. He gave me a warm welcome. As I delivered the message, he immediately abandoned the fruits and went into his room and came out almost in a jiffy. He said, "Let's go." Like a military man, I followed after him as we both marched down to the Taxi Driver's house like soldiers. That anyone who saw us coming need not to be told that something was wrong. We arrived at the Taxi Driver's house, and as I was waiting to get the pictures from Uncle Sam, I spotted the cat running under the sofa. I was excited when I saw her, thinking she's going to smile at me, but she didn't. I tried to grab her, but she is very far from my reach. This attracted the help of Uncle Sam. He pushed her several times, and I finally got the cat. But while he pushed her, I also found a strange paper under the sofa, a paper with names and X's. X. I had to hide the paper from Uncle Sam, and I secretly left with it. After some minutes, Uncle Sam came out with a bag. He handed over the bag to me. He said that the bag contains all the pictures, but I shouldn't open it for any reason. All I need to do is hand it over to the taxi driver. "This bag will probably take the taxi driver out from the jail," he warned. Now I'm beginning to sense something fishy about the whole scenario. I was so curious about the bag and even more curious about the strange paper I found under the sofa. So I decided to take the risk. When I arrived home, I opened the strange letter I found, and guess what I found? A paper with 7 names, and all of them were crossed with an X as they were eliminated. And in the end, I saw my name, Carol. And my name looks like it was waiting to get eliminated, or what I can call the next in line. I was astonished at what I saw. Could this be true? May there be this mistake somewhere? Or it's certainly not my own Carol. There and then, my feelings about the taxi driver automatically changed. Does this mean that the cops were right when they said that the taxi driver has done this in the past? Maybe the taxi driver was trying to fool me to get me assassinated much later. Oops. Don't really know the thought to believe now. My head got heavy. But that's not really my problem now. My problem is what to do with this mysterious paper that I found my name on. I was confused on whether to send the letter to the police or keep it secret. It really took me the whole week to think through. Not until the weekend when I decided to handle it my own way. I know it's quite risky for me to take the paper to see the taxi driver. Perhaps I would question him about this, because my life is at risk too. On getting to the jail, the first guard I passed strangely watched me, and I was a bit nervous. but it didn't take long for me to compose myself again. When I got to the next guard, the policeman asked me what was in the bag, and I said only some pictures, and while he tried to take my bag and inspect it thoroughly, he was interrupted by his colleague's urgent call. I was glad I made it finally to see the taxi driver. I can feel this ecstasy all over him this time, not because he saw me, but because I came with the bag, and without responding to my greeting, he immediately took the bag and hid it behind his back. After that, the taxi driver became uncomfortable with my presence, that he asked me to go, and when I was about to go, I drew closer to him, and I said, "There's something But he didn't give me any space to talk, and he shut me up, and said that I need to start going. He stood up, holding his stomach, acting like one who is badly pressed and need to ease his bowels. Do I really have an option? I had to leave. But I became more and more confused as I stepped out of the prison gate. I went home straight, thinking, I can calm my nerves. I tried to sleep, but it was nowhere to be found. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling and thinking on what to do next. Yes, I got an idea. I think I should talk to Uncle Sam about the paper. It was already 10 p.m., but I don't give a damn of whose axe is to be gored. I need to get this issue in my heart settled once and for all. So I picked up my phone and I called him. But he asked me to come over somewhere close to taxi driver's house. Without a second thought, I went straight because I need to offload the burden. When I got there, I noticed Uncle Sam was somehow drunk, and he asked me to join him on the sofa for a drink. I vehemently refused, although I'm almost 18, but I am not still allowed to drink, and I don't want to. I'm a girl on a mission, so I don't need anything to distract me. But he insisted and tried forcing the drink into my mouth. At the same time, he held my throat, pushing me to the wall and started muttering some words to me. You are a smart and brave girl. You did a great job. You're my hero. Blah, 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 blah. I couldn't take this anymore. Is this how to compliment someone? I pushed him away and took to my heels. Of course, I still kept my secret. The confusion this time is unfathomable, because I don't know why someone will be praising me, but yet holding my throat as though I'm fighting over something with him. That's quite ironical. I really need answers to these questions in my mind. I neither know who to believe now or who to confide in now. Should I go to the police or keep the secret and strange paper with my name still waiting to get crossed? I need your advice on what to do before I go nuts or make the wrong decision. And remember, if I delay, who knows the deadline for my elimination? It may be this last moment you are reading this. So do not hesitate to save a soul now. It was a very beautiful garden, well decorated with my best flowers, the roses. I was lying so comfortable in the arms of the taxi driver, and the next minute, he disappeared into thin air. I searched and searched for him that I almost felt bad, but suddenly I heard a sound with someone closing my eyes with his soft palm. I needed no prophet to tell me that it was the taxi driver. He appeared from the second tree. Then we started playing hide and seek in the garden as the trees smile at us and the birds whistle their melodious love song into our ears. For the second time, I didn't want to let him go. Suddenly, my alarm brought me back to reality. That made me realize that it was only a dream. Why can't this dream just continue? I cried. But then, how can I be playing so insecure with a man who has my name on his elimination list? Still on my bed pondering, I thank God it is a Saturday morning. No academic load, and I have myself all for me. Then I suddenly heard this big horn, and I stretched my eyes to see through the window what this early morning disturbance could be. Guess what I saw? I saw a taxi in my garden. I peeped very well to know whose taxi it is, but I was struggling because the weather was not yet very clear. I decided to come outside. As I was about opening the door, I heard the doorbell ring. I quickly opened the door, and there he is, the taxi driver, standing right in front of my door. Wow, he's finally out! I invited him inside, and he came in full of joy and happiness. I decided not to give him that warm welcome as usual because, for all I know, I'm no longer safe with him around me. I did the little I can by offering him a coffee. "You can keep it on the table. This coffee is not what I need now." Then he started caressing my long, silky hair. The feelings of my dream just came over me again. I felt loved once more. I felt like holding the taxi driver again and kissing him all over. He gently drew my head to his chest and made me lie on it comfortably. Oh, this one place I always loved to be, on Daddy's body. But my parents are so strict that I never had such moments with them. Sometimes when I come close to him, seeking for just petting and care, the next thing would either be an interruption from a business call or a haste to work. Growing up was never fun for me, and now someone is giving it to me with quality attention, love, and care without seeking anything in return. But then, I was reluctant to allow him to have his way. Of course, you know that I was still afraid from the time I found the strange paper. "You are not going to escape me this time," I murmured within myself. I was now very much out to talk to him about the papers I found, and when I was about to ask him, he interrupted me again. "Let's go. I want to show you something," he said. I got more scared this time. Where is he taking me to? Maybe the elimination time for Carol has finally come today. What do I do now? Do I call the cops or my parents? They were the ones that put him in jail for a reason. I'm yet to find out. Then I summoned up the courage to ask him, "Where are you taking me to, and for what reason?" "To my apartment, of course," he responded. "Or do you have any problem with that?" This time he laughed uncontrollably. "Okay, because the last time you came you didn't come back? Oh, don't worry, no matter what it takes me. I'm going to make sure you sleep on your bed tonight. And excuse me, who says I'm going to take the whole of your day? I just want to show you something, and bring you back to the house. Certainly not more than an hour." I was still looking at him, and his babblings in bewilderment. I asked him to allow me to dress up. Then I sluggishly changed into a pair of combat shorts and a shirt and a pair of canvas shoes. I consciously wore this attire with the sense that if anything should happen and it calls for me to take to my heels or fight, I will not have any hinges doing that. Immediately I came out, he screamed, "Wow! That's my elegant queen! What a strong woman, brave and smart!" Those were exactly the same words that Uncle Sam used on me holding my throat when I went to make the report. Guys! This time around, my fears knew no bound. Nevertheless, I reluctantly entered his taxi and we went together to his apartment. On getting to his house, he didn't even care to offer me a seat or coffee. Rather, he immediately started searching for something. From the sitting room, he moved to the bedroom and came out again, scattering everywhere. Now he was already sweating profusely and was very nervous. "Who could have taken this? It was right here," he exclaimed. Then he took to his phone, which he forgot in the taxi, and called Uncle Sam on the phone. He did not answer. He sank on the sofa with a deep sigh. "What is it you are looking for? Tell me so I can help you," I said to him. He laughed hilariously at me and said that it is something I don't know and I shouldn't know until today. My heart skipped a beat and I screamed, "Till today? What is happening today?" I questioned him. He didn't respond to my question but drew me close to his bosom the second time and started caressing myself. "You're a genius, and I like that. But this one is a secret for me." Then he aggressively stood up and said, "Yes, let's go to Uncle Sam's house. He might know where it is." So we decided to go to his place. On arrival, taxi driver told me to wait in the car, and he went to Uncle Sam, and they started fighting with words. "Why are you lying to me? What did I do to you? Just tell me where it is." These were the words I was hearing as I eavesdropped. It didn't take long. Taxi driver came back in the car very nervous, And while we were going back to the house, I asked, "What's going on? Why are you so nervous?" He said nothing. "My uncle claims not to see what I've been looking for." There and then he told me that he had a paper where he put name ideas for his cat, and he can't find it. My goodness, is that all? I was surprised. Why, it should be a problem to him. Then I understood. You know the affinity we have with our cats. We value them so much, and anything concerning it. But then, the paper isn't the problem. But there is a precious name there, which I want to show you. Now I know that the paper was nothing scary. They were just name ideas, and he also wanted to name his cat with my name. This one got me crazy. You know, I was beginning to feel like a princess now. I excitedly told him that I have a surprise for him too, when we get to my house. This time my fears have already melted. I was beginning to see that lovely and caring friend in him, as before. On getting home, I rushed immediately under my bed where I hide confidential things. I ran out of the room in a dancing and excited motion, and I showed him the paper and told him that I wanted to save it for him. He jumped on his feet and lifted me up, flinging me around the room, looking into my eyes. He wanted to say something, but then remained speechless. Finally, we went back to his house again. Behold the cat lying in her normal position on the taxi driver's bed. This time, immediately she saw me. She smiled at me, and he carried his cat up facing me and named the cat Carol, my name. You are very beautiful, meek, and smart. That's why I gave you this name after Carol, my friend. Both of you possess the same quality. And he handed over the cat to me, saying, Carol, behold your namesake, Carol. Oh, that was one of the best nights ever. He really treated me like a queen and also thanked me a lot for everything I did when he was in prison. I have a good news to break to you. My taxi driver friend announced to me that he wanted to open a beautiful big boutique for me, where I can sell cats and its accessories. Talay! Oh, my Cinderella dance! I couldn't help the excitement that was written all over me. I jumped on him, giving a big hug in appreciation. I would have kissed him, but I was still being a disciplined and good girl, you know? This is a dream come true. I know how I have longed for this, but my parents wouldn't let me have my way. Wow! I can imagine the name of my boutique. Carol Cat Boutique, or Catty Car Boutique. Home for your cat. Whichever one, I can't wait to see the reality of this offer. My desperate mood can be defined from my voice. When, where, how, I questioned. He was happy that I'm excited too. He told me to calm down. That will be soon. But first, he wants to give me a treat by sending me to travel to another state of my choice. That sounds great, but too good to be true. The taxi driver is just full of surprises. And what I did to deserve all this is what I can't tell now. In addition, he said that on my arrival, I will also have to bring a bag from his friend. Not again. A bag? The last one was not funny. I was still shocked, confused on whether to embark on the trip or not. Meanwhile, he is still awaiting my response. Why on earth would he just send only me for this trip? Why won't he come along with me? I cannot forget the saying that once bitten, twice shy. Should I take this second risk again? For sure, if I am to embark on this journey, my parents would not be aware of it. What if at this period my parents visit me in school, and what will be my response? How do I face my parents when I return? I'm thinking, what would go wrong? It sounds just like a free trip. But I told the taxi driver that I will think about that and let him know. Really? Hope you're not going to take all ages to think about this. I expected you to make it snappy and give me a yes, and then you leave the rest for me, because the next thing you will see in your hands is your plane ticket ready to go on board. He snapped his fingers. I still have no one else to confide in. What do you guys think? Should I make a free trip that's going to be fun and give me exposure and experience as a young girl? What should I do? Please let me know in the comments below. Life can be devastating, especially when what you thought would never happen happens to you. Back in jail, I was kept at the female sector of the jail. Sitting at the door where I waited for the jailer to come and take me in, I was sitting close to a woman. She asked me what my offense was. I told her that I was caught carrying a liquid substance which I did not know was a drug. She shook her head in pity and said, "My daughter, it will not be a funny experience." Immediately, I got gripped by fear. I mean fear of the unknown. I began to imagine what my experience will look like. I've never been to prison before, never in my life. Initially, I was scared of meeting those real and fierce-looking drug bandits. I finally landed in the jail. That day, it was as if a new prey for consumption had just landed. I got scared the more because I have never slept in a jail before. The questions were too numerous for me to answer. What's your name? What's your offense? How long will you be here? Well, I was able to answer the few I could. Then I went to bed. Throughout the night, tears dripped down my cheeks, wondering what my parents would be thinking about me. I searched for sleep, but I could not get any. I was completely shattered. Even if I was to be jailed, certainly not in another country where I knew nobody. I was still dumbfounded, staring at the ceiling and wishing that the morning breaks as fast as possible. The next day, my mom came to see me in the jail. I hugged her as we lavished rivers of tears on each other's shoulders. Deep within Mom, she knows I am innocent. It was Dad that scolded me, asking what business I had to do in Brazil from school. I had no option than to explain everything that happened to them. Dad gave me assurance of getting me out of here this month. It was not such an easy one because I have no witness but myself. I could not even reach my taxi driver again. Then a few months down the line, I was still in a really bad way. Then I went up to court. I got 2.5 years. I was only 18. I was shocked and scared of being away from my family and friends for so long. I have never been in jail before, so I didn't know what to expect. I just wasn't myself. I couldn't sleep. I was keeping myself to myself, just staying in my cell. I've never made a friend or talked to anybody. I hated the taxi driver the more. He played with my life and sense. I began to have negative thoughts about him. Obviously, there is nothing good about my taxi driver. He has just been taking me from one problem to the other. This should be the 3rd time now that he is landing me into a problem. First, it was the letter under his cushion. Second, was his arrest, which was done by my parents. And now, he brought me to Brazil, only for me to end up in jail. What kind of man is this? I scream in agony. One of my jailmates jumped out of bed when she heard my scream, thinking that something is wrong. But when she entered my room, she noticed I was fine, apart from the sweat that was all over my body. She came close to me and drew me close to herself, cuddling me back to bed. She is such a nice person. With the stories I heard about the jail, I didn't believe a good person can be met in jail. She asked me what was the problem. I was still speechless. After waiting for some minutes, I finally spoke to someone in the jail. I felt loved once more. I hid nothing from Cynthia. I told her everything that happened. How I met the taxi driver, and how I fell in love with him, and the challenges I have experienced from being close to him all this while. But then I noticed something. Cynthia kept smiling at me while I was telling her the story. I was surprised. What is it that my story was not touchy enough. I was disturbed about her response that I asked her if she has had such an experience before now. She said not really, just that she was imagining how good the taxi driver was to me. I was really surprised because this was a taxi driver that brought me here. All she said after hearing my story was, "Will you get something good without getting bad? It's not possible that all these just happened like that." This statement got me thinking throughout the morning, but I decided not to get confused and came to the conclusion that taxi driver just used and dumped me. Months went by, and I didn't hear from my parents talk of more of the taxi driver. This was another wonder for me. How can my parents abandon their only child in a jail in another country? It was that bad that even when I tried calling with the jail cell phone, they would not pick my calls. I sent them messages still yet. I got no response from them. Are you sure these are my parents? Because I don't see the reason why a mother and father should abandon their own child, even if she committed murder. I felt like killing myself. I think that should be the best solution since nobody cares. Not even the court called up my case again. Well, for the court, I don't blame them because I had no lawyer. Because the last time I checked, my parents promised to come with my lawyer, who will take me out of jail. My dad had the best lawyer in my country. From the cases I have learned he has won so far, they are nothing to compare to it. All he would need is just a truthful statement of the story from me. Give him the next 24 hours and I'm out of here. But I never saw a glimpse of neither my dad nor his lawyer. On one Saturday morning about 2 a.m., I was sleeping and the memories of me and my parents kept flashing down my memory. How loving the taxi driver was to me, and how he promised to set up my cat boutique was the second thing that came to my mind. And then the last thought I had was that of my cat, Karina. I was debased. I thought of how lonely she would be by now. Has she run away from the house when she saw no sign of my return? Oh my God! How has she been feeding? Who has been cuddling her during the snow because of the cold would be hectic by this time? I woke up from these memories weeping profusely, and I felt like killing myself and forgetting everything. I thought of getting a knife or gun from the jailers, but they were all in custody of their weapons. Then a thought came into me. If I can stay under the snow and get trapped there, it will be nice. After all, nobody will know because the snow would have heaped on my body and everybody will think it is a normal snowberg. What happened to me that early morning was what I could not fathom. All I could remember was that I stood up and took a walk outside into the snow. I stood outside the snow trying to forget my past. The doctor said I came back to consciousness after 3 days, and it was alleged that I wanted to commit a suicide in a snowberg. When I was unconscious, I could not remember any other thing. All I saw was myself walk through a dark lane with my cat. She was so happy to see me. She jumped on every part of my body, but I noticed she lost one of her eyes. When I saw this, I was angry, and I wondered of what would have led her to this state. Could it be that she was trying to break through the window when she did not see a sign of my return and got cut? But thank God that I woke up. When I woke up, everything changed. It was as if I was in a new world. On opening my eyes, I saw a lot of changes. I was surrounded with flowers everywhere on the hospital bed. The walls, even the floor, were well decorated with rose flowers. Oh, they are my best flowers. Another spectacular thing I saw was signs written on the doorpost telling me to get well soon. Another read, "We love you. Please come home. We miss you." The hospital room was calm with no sign of any human being. I couldn't understand what was going on. I stretched my hands and legs, but I didn't feel any pain. I felt a bit relieved that nothing serious happened to me. I took one of the flyers and perceived the healing aura that came from the petals. I remained in the room without making a move, but kept wondering on who this could be. I thought aloud, I know this is from my cellmates. They love me to the extent of saving me from the iceberg. When I remembered the care and love they shower on me whenever I feel pale and lonely, they make sure I feel good by singing to me. Suddenly, the doors opened. Guess who I saw? It was Karina, my cat. She ran onto my bed and hugged. This is unbelievable. I expected to see the jailers around me to get me secured so that I don't run away. But the opposite was the case. I saw my cellmates walking and started singing. Happy birthday to me. How could I have forgotten that it was my birthday? I just turned 19, and I never knew. Then the big shocker came when I saw the jailers also walk up in the same mood. It was a dancing party amidst a lot of drinking. Indeed, my mood was lightened, and I got more excited. I stepped down and joined them in the dance. The door opened again, and who I saw was unbelievable to me. It was the 2 policewomen that caught me with the black liquid substance at the airport. I got scared the more and began to withdraw my steps backward, looking for somewhere to hide. But they called me on to feel free and also celebrate my day. They joined in the dance. I tried feeling free, but I couldn't help it but to remain careful and conscious of my environment. I was still trying to understand what was happening when my parents walked in. I wanted to hug them in excitement, but then I had a mixed feeling. Why should I welcome them after abandoning me for the months in the jail? But my mom rushed and hugged me. She pleaded for forgiveness as she promised to explain all that transpired to me. The next person I saw was beyond my imagination. The taxi driver walked in and knelt down in front of me with a ring in his hands. I was mute. Then Mom and Dad and everybody in the room screamed, "Please say yes!" Then Dad said that everything that happened was a deal to check my love for the taxi driver, who happened to be a multi-millionaire in the fashion industry. I said yes because I still love my taxi driver. We got married and loved each other forever.